You are one of the most authentic girls' girl.
Thank
And you know how hard it is to find that.
What's the most important lesson you've learned that you wish you knew when starting out?
Follow your dreams, do what it is that makes you happy, do what you got to do. Don't ever take no for an answer.
That's the key ingredient, is that you did the work regardless of what the opportunity was.
I don't feel like I'm going to work. I feel like I'm going to have fun today. The things that women have to do, men don't seem to understand, like all of the upkeep we got to go to. You guys can wake up and just throw a hat on and live your life.
Everything you need to learn about men is in one thing. Don't judge a man on what he says. Here's how you judge: action.
Any change is always going to get somebody's opinion, and people hate change. That's one thing you have to learn. People hate change until it's thrown in their face for so long.
Helped you navigate industry changes and all these new media formats that you've seen over your many years in the space?
That's like a tough question.
Hello and welcome to the Rich Life Recipe. Today's guest is the amazing Astra. You're going to love what we have for you today. Astra is a dynamic New York City radio and media personality with over 20 years of on-air experience. She's currently the global anchor for Page 6, hosts mornings on 103.5 KTU with Hollywood Hamilton. Astra's vibrant presence spans from traditional radio to live streaming and social media, making her a standout in pop culture and entertainment. Astra, thanks so much for being here with us today. We're so excited.
You. I love that intro. Good job.
Thank you.
For those that are just switching on and don't know who we are, that was Alicia Shiro. She's the host of The Rich Life Recipe. I'm the lucky co-host of The Rich Life Recipe, Jason and Scott. And one of the complaints we often get is you guys never introduce yourselves. You go straight into the guest and start talking.
Yes,
so we promise
do.
in season 2, we're going to be a lot better and we will introduce ourselves. And then after, of course, the guest, which is the most important part of the show.
As a radio host, I will give you that tip. Always introduce yourselves first and then bring on everybody else.
That's why you're here.
100%.
Exactly. We needed an expert.
The other thing that we learned quite recently, and for those who haven't listened yet, make sure to listen to our wrap-up of season 1, episode 11, which is the end of our episode. We talk about how learning is just iterations on failure. So making a mistake after mistake after mistake, each time getting slightly better, and then getting great, and then being like, great, we worked it out. But unfortunately for you, you are going to listen to us make a whole lot of mistakes. Something we don't get from Astra on the air. You've been in radio for such a long time. No, thank God, because you make us feel so much better here.
Yeah.
You've been on the air for so long. And of course, this whole show is based around this idea of health, wealth, and wisdom. I have to ask you wisdom about that. I've been doing radio and radio broadcasting, and I studied radio broadcasting and podcasting since 2003.
A year after I started. I started in 2002.
I saw that, but you've done something which is, I wish I had done, which is compounding excellence, right? The longer you've done it, the better you get. The more you do it, the better you get. So you've got this beauty of what Albert Einstein called the eighth wonder of the world, compounding, doing something over and over and over and getting better at your craft. Because I think you would agree with me, this is a craft, doing what you do.
It absolutely is. Yeah, wow. Thank you for that.
It's the absolute truth. So I wanted to ask, what's the most important lesson you've learned that you wish you knew when starting out? Even though it's probably the most cliched question I can ask to begin this.
I would probably say just follow your dreams, do what it is that makes you happy, do what you got to do, and don't ever take no for an answer, because there's going to be a lot of no's out there. People are going to be trying to, crush your dreams, but don't allow that to happen no matter what.
How does that, just because I know, again, we're going to get so much kick in the butt if I don't follow this question up. So the average person says, great, that's great to hear. I mean, you're beautiful, you're funny, you're smart, you're great on air, you've got a wonderful radio voice. You're already miles ahead of most of us. What does that actually look like? Is there a recipe to that? Is there do I go like Jason did and study radio broadcasting? Do I go and just put myself on hospital radio? And do I do lots of, is there some sort of blueprint that someone's done that perhaps you've looked at or you've done yourself that someone can look at and go, okay, look, she started here. She did all this work. That allowed her to get here. Now I can't do that exact thing because times have changed, but what can I do? Is there something in that you could give our listeners as opposed to, because I think it's so easy, and this is not I'm not mocking you at all, but it's so easy for someone who's as gifted and talented, but also have done so much work to look at the end of where you are and go, all it took was the fact that I never took no for a reason. I kept coming back. I kept doing the work. I kept showing up. And that's all true. But it probably isn't the exact steps you took to get where you are now, right? There was probably a lot more involved.
I mean,
so if we could have any of those.
I know it sounds cliche by saying that, but ironically, I didn't even want to do radio. How about that? We could start there. Radio was never my passion. My passion was always television. So I actually went to school for television broadcasting. I studied communications. My dream was to be a television reporter leading into an anchor. Like, that's really what I wanted to do. And I tried my hardest. Problem is a lot of people were giving the BS excuse of, oh, you look too young. Nobody's going to take the news seriously from you. Oh, you need to move, go to the Midwest and start there. And that's one thing I was always very against. I'm like, there's no way that I'm leaving. I'm in New York City, the biggest city of the world. There's no reason why I need to leave my home to then try to work my way coming back. I'm going to make it here. Because as I say, if you can't make it here, you can't make it anywhere. And I wasn't going to take that for an answer. So because I was getting all those, deterring answers of nobody's going to take the news seriously from you, I was like, well, you know what? I got an opportunity to try radio, and radio was never something I wanted, but I was like, you know what? I got to be a little open. Let me see what it's all about, because radio is TV, just not being seen. You're just heard. So I started at a radio station that had just began. I was there for probably the entire summer. I was like, oh, it's pretty cool. And also, I didn't get an opportunity to be on air either. I was trying. They were letting me be on the mic in the clubs, but not on the air on the station. So again, I'm just like, I'm never going to get what I want. So I went back into TV, tried again, still didn't get anywhere. After that, I then went back to that radio station a couple of years later. And I said, I really just want to learn. Like, let me learn from the beginning. I want to know how to work the board. I need to know, I want to study next to somebody. I want to be there next to a jock. I want to see what they do. I want to kind of study them and soak it all up like a sponge. And within a month, they gave me my shot to do an overnight shift, which I remember I was shaking to death, but I'm like, you know what? This is great. Let me try it. And that was the beginning of my radio. I've been in it now for almost 23 years. And it wasn't even supposed to happen.
That's incredible. I was total opposite. So I wanted to get in radio. Didn't want to get, I don't have a face for TV. I wanted to get in radio more than, no, I do not. But I wanted more than anything to get in radio. Couldn't get in. I was told I didn't have the right accent. I grew up in South Africa. I don't sound like a typical South African. I didn't speak any of the 11 official languages. I think I spoke 2 okay and the rest terribly. And what I did was I took advantage of the opportunity, which is affirmative action. And I emailed every black station and said, you don't have a white DJ. I will be the white DJ. I will work any shift. I will take any story. I will be the butt of any jokes. You can use me as the token. I do not care. I just want to sit exactly like you said, at a board, watch a jock, learn how it works. And they gave me the worst shifts. It was called Bush Radio. Horrible name, but that's what they called it. I ran a show called Rock the Mic, 2 a.m. till 6 a.m, graveyard shift, worst shift there is. But got lucky, a guy called Randall Abrams, who's the Simon Cowell of radio in South Africa. He heard me on one episode and said, okay, why don't you apply for Graveyard on a better channel? And exactly like you, I was willing to do the work. I was like, I'll do any shift, any day, anytime, all day, every day. I didn't care about anything else. And I think for those that are listening, that's probably the first ingredient right there. Do the work, show up, sit at the
passion. When you show the passion, people can see that, because as I've gotten further in this industry and I've had, interns coming in or people that are trying to get in, I can tell who's really wanting to be a part of it and others who are just doing it for the credit. You can tell who really is determined. So as long as you have that passion, that outshines the rest.
And even if it's not initially what you thought you were going for. So that's the key. You stuck with it regardless, and you just wanted to learn, and you didn't know where it was going to take you. And I think that's the difference. That's the key ingredient, is that you did the work regardless of what the opportunity was, even though it wasn't the exact thing you wanted. Right. It eventually led to that.
It led me to see that I actually loved doing it. So I loved, first of all, I've always loved music. That's been my thing. So who wouldn't want to sit for 4 hours and listen to music all day and be able to just talk about whatever you want? That's fun. That was another thing too. I never wanted a 9 to 5, sit behind a desk job and punch numbers or, answer phones. Like, to me, that's boring. I always wanted to have something that's going to be new every day. So going into work, there's always something new. There's always new breaking stories. There's always something about a celebrity. There's always, maybe a celebrity coming in that you're going to get to interview. So it's not like that redundant, boring type of job, which is why a lot of people are miserable at work, because they're doing it for a paycheck, not because they love it. They always say you should be working, in a place that you love, that it doesn't feel like work. And that's how being in my industry is. It's like, I don't feel like I'm going to work. I feel like I'm going to have fun today.
It's amazing. Yeah, not everybody can say that. And I think that's the pivotal time, right? If you really don't like what you're doing, you have the power to change that. So let me ask you this question. So has there been a mentor or a pivotal moment that influenced your career path or personal growth? Has there been someone that's helped guide you?
I wouldn't say maybe like a specific person. I would say probably a few people throughout my career. So obviously, when I first started in it, you kind of latch on to those that you have that connection with. So the person that like took me under their wing when they first gave me that opportunity, that's somebody I would latch on to. And, I'd always ask for feedback. How am I doing? How's it sounding? What can I do to be better? Because that's always what I wanted. I didn't want to be tossed to the side, because they can give you that shot and you could lose it as quickly as you get it. So I'm just like, what can I do to keep getting better? And 23 years in, I'm still always asking. I ask my host all the time, give me feedback. What am I doing? What can I do to be better? And even though I work in New York City and people think, you're in New York City, like you don't need, you're at the greatest spot ever. You could always be better at what you're doing. There's no cap. There's always a way to be better. I mean, what I also like to do is I like to emulate other people. So people that I gravitate to, that I either listen to or that I watch, I try to soak up what they're doing and then make it my own. Because obviously something about what they're doing is something that I like, and I don't feel like I'm like that. And I don't want to be like someone else. I want to be myself, but I want to take, what they're doing and kind of like craft it into my own.
I love that. And just from the short time that I've gotten to know you, this is what I can say about Astra. You are super authentic. I just talked about you in our last video, and I had said you are one of the most authentic girl.
Thank
and you know how hard it is to find
so
that.
hard.
Yeah, because we were talking about women in business and stuff like that. So, and I think that is what comes across on the radio and in person, and no matter what you're doing, that authenticity.
Thank you. I mean, listen, you're going to have haters out there too, no matter what. People are always going to try to come at you because maybe you have what they want, or they feel like you're a specific way. I mean, there have been times I remember throughout my career, I'd go out to appearances and people would come up to me and they'd be like, I thought that you were a bitch. I'm like, why? What did I ever do? They're like, I don't know, because you're not smiling. You just look mean. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't walk around like grinning all day. Right. Sometimes I'm in like deep thought. Maybe you're catching me when I'm like thinking about like what I have to do for dinner tonight, like whatever. I'm like, oh my gosh. But they're like, but once I started talking to you, you're so nice. And I'm like, gosh, like people really judge no matter what. It's a bad thing. But I mean, I like the fact that people are like, wow, I thought, but I come to realize,
Yeah.
I bring this up, and I'm sure there's going to be some people that are going to be very angry that I ever shared this story, but I'm going to share it very quickly. So I've got a question around rich and around money, but you also mentioned haters. I once had a very famous hater.
Ooh.
I had the actor Nicolas Cage.
Oh my goodness, small world, but I work with his brother.
No ways.
Yes, his brother's a radio personality on one of our sister stations.
Okay, so his brother might know the story. Well, this is why I've never shared this. I've never shared this a lot. Okay,
don't worry. They don't really talk much.
Okay, well that's probably a good thing. When I was on radio, and I have a question at the end of this, so it's not just a question, it's not just a story. When I was on radio, it didn't pay well, right? And I look after myself. I don't have a family that has money, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but this is what I have to do. And back then, the only way radio DJs would make money is to do PSAs, right? You go to a club, you do a club gig, or maybe you go to a school, which I did. I did the proms, I did the dances, I did the MCs for weddings,
right?
Appearances. And I worked for a big enough station at the time, 96.4, good Hope FM. And I was like, I was like, I can't, this isn't working. Like I'm barely affording to live. And I have to live quite close because I've got to get there for graveyard shift. And if I live far out, I've got to get a car. And I could not work it out. And I'm very entrepreneurial. So that was also an issue at the time because as a DJ, I love talking, but I couldn't build businesses around it. And you mentioned yourself, you get to meet celebrities and you get to talk to celebrities. And I realized that we had all these celebrities coming to South Africa to do concerts and events and films. And well, we don't have a paparazzi in South Africa. So
Oh.
I have this audience that listens at graveyards. So it's mostly truck drivers and ladies that work nights and waitresses and coffee shops. And I was like, listen, you're probably going to see these actors and musicians at your bars and at your cafes. And if you see them, let us know. It'd be fun. Like you just call in the radio station and tell us that someone's at, like Tom Cruise is at the Milky Way having an ice cream with Nicole Kidman. And it was great. And then I got this call from this famous Page Six at the time in the UK. It was called the 3 a.m. Was the name of the column. The Sunday Mirror was the newspaper. Suzanne Kerins was the lady that ran it. And she said, how much do you earn a year? One photograph of Prince William getting drunk will pay your annual salary.
Yeah, absolutely. That money shot right there.
So what did I do? I told my audience that if they send me photographs of celebrities, I would do a call out on radio for free. And then I started this paparazzi company and we could catch them. Thank you. I'm insanely entrepreneurial. Unfortunately,
you were ahead of Page Six and TMZ over here.
I was just going to say, it's like the TMZ of the UK.
Yeah, 1998, so I was really, really ahead of my time. But also, like, we'd have like Beyonce come to the station and then leave, or we'd have Jay-Z because we had the 4664 Nelson Mandela concert where everyone came down for this big event with Oprah Winfrey, but no one was taking photographs. And I knew that people were running around who had cameras and could take photos. And then if I wasn't paying for it, I wasn't paying a lot. Plus, I had the arbitrage of pounds to rands, rands being one of the worst currencies in the world. Anyway, long story short, Nicolas Cage chooses to leave his wife behind in LA, come to South Africa, hook up with a Californian sushi waitress that he had just met. And someone took a photograph of him leaving a diamond shop. Big sign, diamonds. And yes, I mean, beautiful shot. A guy called, and credit to him, Mohammed Khimet. And he sold me the photograph for $1.
That's
$1
it?
US. That's it.
Wow.
That was the whole price.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's regretting that now.
And you broke the news, didn't you?
I got front page news. Radio DJ, photograph, Nicolas Cage cheating on wife in South Africa, sushi waitress, LA, and you can imagine it. And I could not believe it. I did not want that much heat. That was not what I was doing it for. I was doing it for the money. I was doing it for the fame. I was very happy to be a DJ.
Why you want to stay behind the scenes.
Very much. Why I do not, like, why I said to Gary Vee, I'd rather be known well than well known. Like, I have a very strong idea. I've been infamous. I never want to be infamous again. I was in seconds. I mean, I don't know if Nicolas Cage was more powerful back then than he is now, but within seconds, I was blackballed. I couldn't get into restaurants. I couldn't get into clubs. I couldn't go to certain places. I was absolute persona non grata.
Oh yeah, because now you were like the enemy.
Correct. And now my station was like, listen, just because we're going to have to suspend you for 5 days. Like, it's all good. Just, today's newspapers, tomorrow's pet liner, you'll be fine. But I was a cocky, arrogant person that was making way too much in paparazzi and hardly anything as a radio DJ. And I thought I'd get so many job offers anyway. So I was like, forget it, I'm out of here.
You got blacklisted.
I got blacklisted. Nicolas Cage apparently wrote about me in his blog. He had a blog at the time called Rage by Cage. Right? Clever name.
It's a good name.
Yes. I couldn't even go to my favorite sushi bar. But yeah, that's my question to you of that horrible story that to this day
No, that's a great story.
Thank you. Is what did you do in the beginning to get by? Because New York is not the cheapest. I mean, Cape Town's cheap in comparison, but not if you're by yourself. Actually, I was. But New York is, I mean, it's a tough city with alone, let alone the financial burden of living in New York and working in New York and traveling in New York. What was that like at the time? How did you get through that?
Living paycheck to paycheck, like the rest of New Yorkers. It was incredible. I mean, I was on Long Island at the time, so it's a little bit outside of New York City. So obviously I didn't have the New York City rent to have to pay for. So I was living on Long Island, working on Long Island. The pay was not the greatest because people think, oh, you're in radio, you're making that Howard Stern money. You must be a millionaire. And I'm like, you are so mistaken, my friend. Like, if that was the case, I'd be living in a penthouse overlooking Central Park. Like, come on. But back when I first started, the salary was just so low. But at the same time, it was one of those things where I was just able to kind of juggle it on a paycheck to paycheck scale. So I was working full time. All of my money was going to the rent. I was eating whatever I could eat,
A
and
true New
just,
Yorker.
yeah, and just kind of living. And then it wasn't until I got my break in New York City where I was able to almost like double my salary. So I was like, wow, like I'm living large now, even though you're not really, but it's like you feel like you are, because money is just like, you kind of have to look at it as you make it work for you. So it's like the little amount of money you have, you can still live well. And the major amount of money you have, you can still live well. People think, oh, well, if I was a millionaire, I'd be able to do this, this, and this. It's all relative, because even if you're not a millionaire, if you're making 50,000 a year as opposed to 500,000 a year, you're going to still be able to live the same way, just within your means. So it's not like, it's exciting when you do make more, because now you think like, oh my God, I'm richer. But are you really richer? Like, you got to be smart with your money, because if you start blowing that extra money you're making, that's what's going to make you poor. You need to now be able to live within your means. So it's like, now that I'm working 2 full-time jobs, I'm making the most now than I've ever made before, but I'm also being smart about it. So it's like one salary is getting saved, like one's going away, the other's paying for my bills, like my rent, my phone, my credit card, and then I still have some extra. And I'm pretty like frugal, not cheap, but I'm like frugal, like I'm smart about it. I'm not going to go out and splurge on a Chanel bag. Got to find somebody rich to do that for me. Although I'm not
Exactly.
going to lie, I did treat myself to one. That was my gift to myself when I came out to the city. When I started working in the city, I said, I've been wanting a Chanel bag for so long that I'm going to treat myself to one, because I deserve it, because I've worked for it, and now I'm making enough money. And even if it means me having to not go out to dinner for the next like 6 months, that's fine, because I'm going to get something that I've really wanted.
I think it's important to mark those big successes. You need something to reward yourself. And I think that that's a good idea that you do that, and that
Mm-hmm.
you're frugal and smart about money. Because trust me, I live in the city too, and it does not take long to spend.
Oh my gosh, you could spend in a day. Like sometimes I'm like, how did I just spend $500 today? And
Just
it's just in
walking
like
out the
one day.
door.
Literally. I'm like, how did this happen? It's like,
hmm
and the upkeep for women, we have to get
hmm
hair, nails, lashes, like everything, makeup, whatever. Like next thing you know, I'm like, crap, where did all that
Yep.
money in literally an hour?
Especially because you are a personality, so you're on video as page 6. I mean,
Right.
so it's like it's not an option for you to not do it.
Right. I can't let myself
Ex-
go.
right. I mean, and this is where things get tricky in the entertainment world, or anyone that's in the public eye, because you're trying to balance so much self-care, for one, maintaining that energy. You're always on, you have to look good. Of course it's going to cost money.
Right.
So let me ask you this: what do you do for yourself because you are going from one job to the next, which is also, I don't know how you're doing it. You and I have talked about that. I don't know when you sleep. You're up at 5 a.m. I go,
Oh.
the thought of me doing hair and makeup at 5 a.m., I can barely do it on a Saturday at noon. So like trying to do it at 5 a.m., my face doesn't wake up until noon.
I know.
So, right.
Same.
So what do you do to like maintain and keep your sanity and feel good?
Uh, well, I always make sure to get the necessities, which people are like, why are you getting that stuff done? But it's because it makes me happy. So things like getting my hair done, making
Yeah.
sure the color's up to point, my extensions are in, getting my lashes done each month. I have to do that. Botox, because you got to do the preventative Botox, because you don't want to ever
Yeah.
get wrinkles, because once you
hmm
start to get a wrinkle, it's too late at that point.
And speaking of Botox, not to interrupt you, but I've tried to stop doing it, and now I can't stand this. And I'm like, what is my alternative here? Can someone please come out with something that doesn't cause cancer, and that like
It would have to
we
be the mini facelift. And who
right,
wants to go under the
right,
knife right now?
exactly. And I don't want to do that either, but I'm tempted. But sorry to interrupt, but
No,
you
not
got
at
me at the
all.
Botox. But yeah, I mean,
I
it's
get
not.
yelled at all the time for it. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but you know what? Like, this is why I look the way I look, because I started younger. Like, I made sure to start before there was ever a wrinkle. So that's why I'm able to maintain. And then, you got to get the facials, you got to use the UV lights, you got to the infrared, I have the mask. I just bought that mask that I walk around and I
have
look
the
like an
same
alien.
one.
But it's like, and it works. Don't get me wrong, it works. It's just time consuming. And the things that women have to do, men don't seem to understand, like all of the upkeep we got to go to. You guys can wake up and just throw a hat on and live your life. Not us. Not
and
us.
they're not judged usually. I will say this though, I was surprised George Clooney got a lot of heat for his black hair. It made him look so much older. But typically no one normally says anything to a guy. But they did get on him. So I was kind of surprised. I'm like, wow, times are changing. It doesn't matter anymore.
Well, it's only because everybody's so used to what he did with the salt and pepper that it's like any change is always going to get somebody's opinion, and people hate change. That's one thing you have to learn. People hate change until it's thrown in their face for so long that they learn to accept it.
Yeah.
It's tough because people are just, I guess, creatures of habit.
Yep. And I've got to say this now. This is my prediction. George and Amal are divorced before the end of this year, 2025.
You think so?
Wow, really?
100%. I've made a big bet. I'll tell you why. Everything you need to learn about men.
Page 6 info.
Yeah, right.
Here it is.
Bring it on.
Everything you need to learn about men is in one thing. And it's so, I told all my female friends this because they're like, well, I don't know my boyfriend. What about my husband? I'm like, everything you need to learn about men is in this one sentence. So if you're listening right now, come on in. Let Daddy Jace tell you a little secret about men.
And you would know, I will say.
And I would know. I've been married 3 times. I know things. Don't judge a man on what he says. It means nothing. Men can say ridiculous things, and they will. They'll say whatever it takes to get the thing that they really, really want. History is covered in men talking absolute nonsense to get what they want. Here's how you judge. Action. What is it he's done? If you're living in a state and I'm living in another state and I'm a billionaire, but I have to go to inverted comma work every day where my job is to be in front of beautiful people who tell me how beautiful I am, and I have to change my appearance to be in this particular position, and my job just means traveling and hanging out with other people, and I keep getting photographed with other young people, and I am an older man, I can guarantee you things aren't good at home. Because I would take my billion, and he's a billionaire. He sold Casa Amiga for an absolute fortune. And I would move with my wife and my beautiful new kids, and I would just spend time. Every single celebrity that suddenly goes on a world tour or suddenly does so many movies away from their family, I pull my friends in and I go, let's bake the bets down. 10 grand. Jason Momoa separates from his wife by the end of the year. Done. Win. Next. Who else is traveling? This person? Guaranteed they're coming. Gone. Next.
I mean, it's true. She did not show up to the
she wasn't at the premiere
of the Broadway show. She was not there. But I mean, granted, they do have 2 kids. Maybe she was home with the kids. But then again, with all that money, they have nannies. So it's not like she couldn't have been there.
Nope. And she is a successful, very successful career woman. It's not like her career is looking after George or their kids. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
It's not like she was a waitress and he found her at a restaurant.
Right.
Correct.
Exactly.
Sorry, Nicolas Cage. But that's my tea. That's my. I've made a big bet with all my friends. This is it.
You heard it here first, folks.
You heard it here first.
Wow.
I made the prediction.
Put those bets down.
I'll put it out there. If they're going to get a divorce, Daddy George, come on, see me. I'll pick it up. I'll pick it up. Although I don't want a guy with kids, but you know what? I'll bend.
You'll make the exception. That's the only one, though.
We'll definitely clip that.
Dark hair or salt and pepper, I'll take him however he is. It's fine.
He is absolutely lovely. But that brings me to a great question. He's maintained his health, he says, because he's stayed away from stress. He surrounds himself with great people, and he has got certain go-to routines. He said the only surgery he's had that, is it called blasphemy, where they take the top, the skin, for those that aren't watching us right now on YouTube.
Basically.
Eyelid lift. Thank you very much. Do you have any, not surgical, but any health or vocal health energy things that you do for yourself? Because you are giving up so much energy in the things that you do over and over and over again.
I've always been a big sleeper. That's my thing. So now having these two jobs taking up a lot of my time, I don't get that much sleep anymore. So I use the weekends to like sleep in. And it's like I also don't want to waste my time sleeping because I want to get
Right.
out and have little bit of a life because I only really have like 48 hours to myself, pretty
So
much.
wild.
So I try to juggle both, but I'm not gonna lie. Like if the weather's bad, I'm sleeping in. Like there's no reason to go out if it's rainy or cold. So I will sleep until my eyes open. No alarm, nothing. Like I've always been a big sleeper. Before I had these jobs, I would sleep until like 10, 11 o'clock and then wake up and then start my day. And I would go to bed at like 2, 3 in the morning. So it's kind of like relative. You know, if you look at it, it's like I was still sleeping the same amount you're supposed to. I was just going to bed later and waking up later. But I don't know what it is. Like my thing is sleep. Like I will take sleep over anything. Like people are like, "Oh, what about the gym?" I don't work out. Not because
Wow.
Wow, really?
not
Because
because I
you
don't
are
have the
fit.
time. Thank you.
You
Not because
look
I
No, but
don't have
you
fit.
the
are
Yeah.
fit. Yes. Okay,
Oh,
so we
thank
need to
you.
know that recipe.
Well, before we ask that recipe, what does the bedroom look like? Like, have you built it? There's a lady who's recently doing the podcast, and I'm sure we're going to have her on the show, and she was talking about how the bedroom should only be for two things, and one of them is sleep, so that's
Mhm.
important, and that it's been proven that just doing that will make you live longer, healthier, longer health spans, etc., etc. Do you have is the room a certain way? Is it blackout blinds? Is it candles? Is it red light, blue light, green light? What is? Tell us your story.
No, I can sleep through a tsunami. So it doesn't even matter.
Wow.
Like my mom used to say to me, she was like, God forbid there was like a hurricane and people had to like evacuate. You're sleeping through it. Yeah, I am. I will sleep through an entire
That's
earthquake. Nothing wakes me up. I am a deep sleeper. So
that's a
I don't
gift.
need, yeah, I don't need anything to like help me. Although during the week I've been known now to take ZQL because I'm like, I need to sleep. Like I can't fall asleep. I'm going to bed now at like 8:30, 9 o'clock, which is like unheard of for me from somebody who used to go to bed 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, that's a big change in the
Huge.
circadian rhythm. Yeah.
So it's tough. And there are times where I'm laying in my bed till maybe like 10 o'clock and I finally fall asleep. And then when I'm up at 5 in the morning, I'm like,
Oof.
like it's one of those like, let me just lay here for another 10 minutes before I have to get up. And I'll roll into work late. I don't care because I need sleep. That extra like 5, 10 minutes,
Yeah.
like it helps.
So
Yeah.
you don't have like a pre-bed regime, doing a certain thing to get in a certain headspace to close your eyes to pass out.
Nope. It's just I just love my bed. I just go to sleep. There is
That's
nothing that I
amazing.
need to do to like prep for it.
That's
Nothing.
awesome. At least that's good. Once you're finally settled in, you can fall
Mhm.
right to sleep. I
Yeah.
am the exact opposite of that. I'm a very light sleeper and it takes a while. I have to do some breath work. I do a
Oh
little
wow.
countdown. Yeah, but it does work. The breath work and the countdown does work. But then I have this hairless cat that will wake me up 3 times, like today, like last night.
I
Didn't
love
sleep at
that
all.
cat. That cat is so cute, by the way.
Well, he was very fresh the day he met Nyla.
Yeah,
She
he
has a
was.
beautiful little Yorkie, and Tut was very nasty.
Very. I was like, why are you so mad?
Yeah, he was very angry.
And she was just like, hi, let's
Yeah.
be friends. He's
Yeah.
like, get the hell out of my face.
Yeah. She was so cute and friendly. She had a nice little Chanel outfit, and Tut's like,
hissing away. I was just like, what are you, a snake? Like, what is going on?
yeah, he was not having it that
But he
day.
was
I don't
cute,
know.
though. He was cute.
Yeah,
Despite his anger, it's all right. We all have bad days.
right. Too funny.
Oh man. But yeah, so back to the whole thing about the gym. Like I just don't work out and not because I don't have the time. I just don't have the motivation. I've never
Mm.
had that. I've tried to go to gyms and I think the problem is when I've gone to work out at gyms, I never see results. I've had trainers barely would see results. So for me, I'm like, why am I going to invest so much time and energy into something that is not working? And it doesn't work for everybody. You know, people say like, oh, you should go to the gym just to stay healthy. I live in New York City. I walk around the entire city. I am healthy. I am walking like that. Cardio right there. That's my cardio. Walking to and from work and all over the place whenever I'm meeting somebody, unless it's so far that I have to take an Uber. But other than that, that's my gym, the streets of New York City.
Mm. It is a concrete jungle.
It is. It is. And sometimes, I mean, listen, sometimes you got hills around here, sometimes there's like steeps and like, you get your workout.
You definitely do 20,000 steps is easy to do in New York. That's
Mhm.
like 12 avenues, right? It's like something like that. It's really there's really a lot of steps that you can accumulate just walking a few blocks. So I totally get that.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Otherwise, plastic surgery. That is the other answer.
You heard it
Because you
here,
know what?
folks. That's our health and wellness recipe.
There you go. Because at the end of the day, if you really want results, that is what's going to give you the best results ever. You need to be tightened and tucked. You will be tightened and tucked. That trainer can't get you the results that plastic surgeon can.
So
I knew this.
two things for our listeners. Number one,
Oh my God.
scientifically, yes, if you go to the gym, you will actually only shrink fat. Fat can only be removed through liposuction. There's no other thing in the entire world that actually removes fat. Fat shrinks and expands according to its use case, which is quite interesting. And if plastic surgery does interest you and you've had a million questions, then make sure to listen to season 2. We have the incredibly famous plastic surgeon. Is she a plastic surgeon? Is she a aesthetician, registered nurse? Emily Tron coming on the show. She has one of the most successful clinics in Scottsdale, Arizona. Let me know if I'm saying that word right. I know Scottsdale because my surname is Scott, but is Arizona the way you say it, or is it like Arizona? She's in Arizona.
No, we don't
That's
say
with an
it like
accent.
that.
Yeah, we don't say it like that. Okay, fine, great. But if that is interesting, they have questions about Botox and fillers and things like that, please make sure to go to our show, leave your questions, and definitely listen in season 2. Emily Tron, I think she's coming up in episode 4 of season 2's lineup.
Nice.
Excellent.
She's a good one.
Yeah.
So, Alicia described you 4 times as like one of the most authentic people she's ever met. She's like, she is so authentic. And I think that's amazing. But in your industry, it can't be easy. So I guess the question I've got for you is, how has your authentic personality helped you navigate industry changes, of which I'm sure there's a lot, and all these new media formats that you've seen over your many years in this space?
That's like a tough question.
That's what I'm here for.
Jason loves the tough ones.
I'm the tough one.
It's so funny too, because I'm usually on your end. I'm the one doing all the interviews. So for me to get interviewed, it's tough. Okay. Because I like to put everyone in the hot seat. I don't like to be in this hot seat. This is tough. I mean, I've always just been my true authentic self. I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, some people are going to like it and some people are not. I always speak my mind, and I always, I don't sugarcoat anything. That's the one thing about me. Like I am who I am, take it or leave it. And I've worked so hard to do what I need to do, and people can see that. And then there's other people that, might hate on that. But at the end of the day, like I said, you get out what you put in. So I hope
very
that
true.
it.
and I've seen you. We went shopping together. I've seen you post for friends and for stores just to help them. And the speed in which you do it is unbelievable. She will just pull out her phone, take a quick video, say a quick few words, type in a couple things, and boom, done. Me, on the other hand, it would take me like a half hour just to get the video right.
She was like, wait, you posted that already? I'm like, yeah.
I couldn't believe
like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Because I've been doing social media since before social media was a thing. Like, what's funny is when I was working at one of my radio stations on Long Island, I was that person that thought to myself, I'm sure people want to see what happens in a radio station. So I had set up my laptop as my webcam, and I would broadcast live from the studio. Wow. And people used to think like, that is so weird. Like, because back then it's like a webcam is for like,
right,
bad things. But I'm like, no. I'm like, people want to see what happens like when the mic's not on. They want to see like what I'm doing. Like, what am I doing in between songs? Am I picking my nose? Am I picking a wedgie? Am I sleeping? Like, what am I doing? So I would just be on a live webcam, and I had a program where people were able to like pop in and like ask questions or like type in whatever, and I'd have conversations almost like the way TikTok live is now. Like, you know what I'm saying? But this is before it was a thing. This is back when like MySpace was a thing. So I had like 20,000 friends on MySpace. And I remember my boss back then was like, who has 20,000 friends? What, are you going to have a house party with them? And I'm just like, why are you so mad that I know how to self-promote? And obviously, like, I was on to something, because at the end of the day, people always want to know what they do not have the ability to see or know.
Right.
So that was my thing all the time. So when it comes to social media, I was always big on social media. So even though there's all these social media influencers, the true influencers are really radio people, because we are always influencing people to buy things or to do things or to see things. But like, I've learned how to, hone my skills into being able to be authentically real about it, because I don't just promote to promote. I promote if I really do feel passionate about something. I've been asked to post about certain things at times where I'm just like, I don't really like that, and I'm not going
Right.
to lie to my viewers or my fans or my listeners just because you're going to pay me for it. I want to be able to tell them my experience, and I'm honest about it. Like recently for page 6, they had me go out wearing Kim Kardashian's Skims, the
That was
leggings. You
brilliant.
saw that?
Mm-hmm.
So she just came out with this new like it's like a button
Butt
enhanced
lifting?
legging. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, button enhanced, because they
Enhanced.
do have a butt lifting one. This is the button enhanced. So it comes with these like butt pads built into the leggings. So the minute I put them on, I was like, I feel like I'm wearing a diaper. Like I literally felt like I was wearing a diaper. I'm just like hiking them up, trying to like situate these pads on my ass. And I'm like, this is so weird. So of course, we had to go out into the streets of New York City to see if we got anybody to look. So we're walking around Times Square, because what better place to go than Times Square to get,
Genius.
reaction. And at first I'm like, nobody's really paying attention. I'm like, let me start doing some lunges, like some squats. Let me like kick my legs around, because people are going to be like, what the hell is this girl doing? Just so we can get like reaction out of them. But then I also wrote an article behind it to give my review. And I noticed as I was walking around in these leggings, they kept sliding down. So I kept having to hike them up. And when we purchased them, they were $88. Now they just went up to $118, which I have no idea why.
Wow.
But to be completely honest with you, like whether 88 or 118, I would not spend that type of money on these leggings when they're not even staying in place. Like the quality was nice. They're kind of like Lululemon. They were really nice leggings, but they just don't stay on properly.
That's
And
so interesting.
yeah, and it's not like I didn't have my correct size. I had my size, unless what am I supposed to like size down and then
down?
be like in a faja, like like sucked in. But I mean, they fit when I put them on. It was just the walking around motion started to make them slide. So I was honest about that. Like, like would I buy these? No, but would I still support her Skims? Yeah, because I have Skims bras. I love them. I
Right.
love her line. The leggings just don't do it for me. And so
Oh, it's
it's
honest.
honesty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
authentic.
Yeah.
Anyone that follows me knows when I first started my first podcast, the Guestless podcast, I was trying to find ways to make money out of my podcast. I found 36 ways to make money out of a podcast. And
Wow.
one of the ways, and this can be looked up, season 2, episode 13, still on
I
Spotify.
love how you remember that.
I remember every episode, every
That's
single.
crazy.
It's bizarre. It's very weird.
I have podcasts. I can't remember every episode.
I can honestly, especially because they're so bizarre. They're really, I don't know how they. But I launched an underwear called Spunks, SPHUNX. Yes, and it had
for
pads in the
hunks?
butt and the front. That was the whole point for men only. Because as
Wow.
men get older, their butts become flat and straight, so they get this long back look with no ass. And a lot of gay men were complaining that you couldn't see all the time that, they were manly men. Their words, not mine. So I was like, I wonder if I was to put this, and I had a very large gay audience at the time that I knew because I'd bump into them in Soho, because I used to work in Leicester Square, so I used to walk through Dean Street, for those that are wondering. And I remember thinking, if I send these underwear, I'm telling you, and that was the number one complaint, was they couldn't keep the pads in place. When you put it on immediately, it looked great, it fit great. But when you were going out, especially if you were going to the clubs, you'd be dancing and sweating, then there was this real issue. So I was trying to make the Wonder Bra for men. It didn't work. It was not
But
a
it's
thing.
like theater of the mind, because now you go home with this person and they take these things off and you got nothing.
Right.
Okay, another secret about men: if you've got as far as taking us home, we don't care what happens after that. It's not a thing.
It's like, where'd that ass go?
Right.
We don't care. Maybe in the morning we'll care, but not that exact moment. That is not a situation. No. It's like bringing ingredients home and then you don't make the right kind of sandwich. We don't care. We'll
Like,
just won't
whatever.
order at that
As long as
restaurant
it's
again.
edible, I'll take
As
it.
long as it's edible, we are good to go. Okay.
There's nothing worse than always having to adjust something. It's like the most uncomfortable and annoying situation to be in when you're out, if you have to constantly adjust.
The worst, which is why I was like, man, I was actually hoping to wear those leggings around just to like be like, even though it felt like a diaper butt, I'm like, I'll have a diaper butt to look like I got a BBL. Why not? Like, this is pretty cool. But now when I have to keep readjusting, sliding them back up, it's like people are like, is this girl like, what's going on? She's getting undressed on the streets. Like, no, I'm literally trying to just keep my pants up.
Well, based on your feedback, maybe they'll correct them, I mean, they need honest feedback. It's, Well, speaking of page 6, I have a question. So
Mhm.
I know you've done a ton of interviews. Has there ever been a guest that said something that truly shocked you that you didn't know how to respond or you
Hmm.
hesitated?
You know, for me, nothing is shocking. I
Yeah,
feel
I
like,
think that's
especially
New
being a New
York.
Yorker,
Yeah.
nothing is shocking to
Yeah.
me. You could tell me the most outlandish thing, and I'd be like, cool.
Right.
Like, I guess, you know what? I guess the one thing that kind of shocked me a little when I was doing a radio interview with Alicia Keys. So we talked, we had a great interview, and then at the end she was like, that was one of the best interviews I've ever had. I was like, what? Like, I was like, that is
That's
crazy. You
awesome.
know, like, I was shocked. I guess that was shocking to me because this is Alicia Keys, like, grew up listening to her, you know, like, it was just wild that she was like, that was really good. Like, she complimented me on it.
Aw.
And it's like, I feel like that's the thing that stands out to me whenever I do interviews with artists, celebrities, and they compliment the interview at the end. That makes me feel fulfilled because I'm like, I guess I did my job correctly. Because sometimes, you know, you go into things not knowing if you don't want to rub someone the wrong way, or you don't want to make someone feel uncomfortable. And I always try to make everyone feel like they're my friend at the end. Like, you know, I've had interviews where they'll come in and they're very standoffish and very cold. And by the end of the interview, we're like laughing and joking. And it's like I broke their shell.
Mm.
And I like that because I always want to make people feel comfortable because, you know, this is something they're going through all the time. So it's like, I get it. Like, I've even had interviews with people that are just completely horrible. Like, you just don't even feel like talking to. Like, they just have attitudes and stuff. But then I think to myself, you know what? Everyone has a bad day. Maybe they're
Mm.
going through it that day. I'm not going to fully put judgment, but like, if I meet you again and you're an asshole, then,
Right.
you know, clearly that's who you are. Because there are a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people out there too that put on that front that they're so great. But then when you really get to talk to them, it's like shocking to see. And there's a lot of people that, you know, even fans, when they meet like their idol, they're like, wow, they were so mean, you know, and it
Mm-hmm.
turns them off because it's true. Like, you never know what you're going to get out of someone, and sometimes it could be shocking enough to turn you off or shocking enough to make you be excited.
Right. And
There,
I think
there is
it's a
a
skill, though, to make them still feel comfortable, even though you're saying to yourself, noted.
Yeah, I mean, there have been times I've turned some of these celebrity interviews into friends. Like, I've
Mm-hmm.
become friends with some of these people all because of our conversation. They're like, take my number, let's hang out. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
really?
wow. There's that famous expression, right? Never meet your heroes. Like it's one
Mm.
of the most, and everyone gets warned about this. And I remember I had a real particular bad taste for a certain famous actor and producer and director,
Who
and I
was
will
it?
name him Kenneth Branagh.
Who's
The
that?
he oh my he's phenomenal. He's done I think he did I'm gonna say he did Thor for Marvel with Chris Hemsworth. He did one of the Bonds. He was a bad guy. He's massive. He really is one of the greatest actors of all time. And I met him at a premiere, and we left, and I turned around and I said, "Big fan of your work," and he was incredibly rude. And I've met a lot of my heroes, and they've all been amazing, and he wasn't. And then years later, exactly like you said, I started thinking about how what was he doing when I said that. And I realized he was helping his 90-year-old mother get out of a chair, and I had put myself between him and his mother to tell him that
Mm.
I liked his work. That was a terrible time for me to have said that. I could have waited. I could have just not told him. I'm sure he knows how great he is. He's an Olivier-winning, Oscar-nominated. You know, he's good at what he does, and he's aware of it. That was about me. That wasn't about him. And I had to really sort of stop and go, yeah, actually, maybe it's nothing about meeting your heroes. It's about realizing in yourself when you've done a lot of projecting. And I think, again, like, so for every interview, Alicia knows this, we'll do a lot of research, right? Not Alicia, because she knows every single person that she brings on the show. So she's like, I know this person. I hang out at their house. I was doing magic with them backstage. I was talking to them, but I don't know any of these people,
Mm.
like absolutely
The
no one.
benefits of being an event planner.
100%. So I'll do like all this research, and I'll watch everything and listen to everything and try and like read the book before that we get the person on or whatever. And listening to your stuff was so pleasurable because you do have this affable nature that just comes across episode after episode or clip after clip or your social media. Like everything I was getting, I was just like, I had more and more energy for this interview, as opposed to just being
Aw.
like, I can't listen to another thing. I can't go through one more clip. I can't, like, no offense to Chris Hart or whatever his name is, that little Hart guy, but I can't watch another clip. Like, he can't come on this show because it's too much energy and it exhausts me. But you are so good at constantly delivering that, and it doesn't surprise me that you say, after your interviews, people are like, oh my God, we should hang out, because you create this feeling of safety that immediately you're like, it's okay, I've got you. We're going to go through this together. We're going to talk about this thing, or we're going to explain how this thing works. And even in your writing, like, obviously I didn't get to see an interview about the pants, the pad pants, the Skims, but I read it, and reading it, I felt like I was
It
there.
was at the top. The video was right at the top of the article. You didn't
Saw
even
that, but I
click
think
it.
I didn't have enough time. I thought I'd just read it, get it in my head, get my own voice going for it. Plus, the imagery was distracting. I couldn't.
And you
I couldn't
did
focus.
All my
get
pictures
looks.
with my big ass.
I did.
You
Yes, I
did
did.
get
I did look at that.
looks. I did see that. There
Yeah.
were guys sitting on the bench,
Yep.
and they did notice.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you
It's
can't
quite
miss
something.
I think you would get the looks anyway, though. So I'm not sure if it was the pants or
Well,
not.
that was the thing. That was what I was saying too as we were recording it. I'm like, it's so hard to notice anyone looking at my ass when I'm coming towards them. They see me, so they're looking. And then, of course, when you pass by, then they're like, oh, like that's where they look again. So it's like a double look almost.
Insane. Has there been someone that you've met, which is my question? I got to meet Kim on the carpet for the premiere of Hitchcock before she was famous.
Mm-hmm.
So she was dating a football player. I think his name was Reggie something at the
Reggie
time.
Bush.
That's it. And he was, everyone knew who he was, which is also mind-boggling, because in the UK, I didn't think we knew who American football players were, but she was less known. But for a lot of my friends, that was like, I can't believe you got to meet. And I was like, I got to meet her during a period where her most famous thing was Reggie, and she knew Paris Hilton. It wasn't like now when you meet Kim Kardashian, you're meeting someone at a very different stage of their lives. But have you met any of your heroes where you were like, I'd love to interview them one day? I have this question I've always wanted to know. I've read their books. I've seen them on film. I've heard their music. Obviously, Alicia Keys, you mentioned. Is there anyone else that you've finally had in that chair and got to bring it out?
It's funny because the only story that really stands out to me, because I mean, I've interviewed pretty much everybody under the sun, but
Wow.
People always usually ask, like, have you ever been starstruck by anyone? Because
Yes.
normally I don't get starstruck, but, and this is so embarrassing to say, but I got starstruck when Jordan Knight from New Kids on the Block walked into my studio because the kid in me came out, and I could not speak for the life of me. And I'm like, and he's like, hey, and I'm like, just my mouth wide open, like couldn't even say a word. I was like, can we take a picture? Like frozen. And I was like, I'm like, I'm so embarrassed right now. I'm so sorry. This isn't how I normally am. I was like, but you were the first, like New Kids on the Block was the first concert I ever went to. I was a huge fan of them. And this is like, it's funny to me because it's like New Kids on the Block. This isn't like it was, Beyonce or like Mariah or J-Lo or any major name that people are going to be like oohing and eyeing over. This is Jordan Knight from New Kids on the Block, and I could not speak a word until I finally was able to compose myself.
He does have the right stuff.
He really does. I like that segue. He really does. He's hanging tough. But I ended up like apologizing to him, and he followed me on Twitter at the time, and I tweeted to him, and he wrote me back, and he was like, I can tell how genuine you really were. And he was like, are you coming to our show? And I was like, oh, I don't have tickets. He goes, oh, don't worry, I'll get you tickets. Not only did he give me tickets, he gave me like backstage to meet him. And he only arranged to do the backstage with me. So like every new kid gets to have a certain amount of backstage passes, I found out. He only put out mine and like my +1. And we did an interview, which it's up on my YouTube page so long ago. And I brought my Jordan doll that I have.
Aww.
And I had him sign it. Because
so
I was like, I still have the doll with your little rat tail. And he told me how the rat tail he cut off and gave to his mom. And like, it was such a cool thing. But like, it's just, to me, it's so stupid, but it's just so cute too,
So cute. It's
That's
just
beautiful.
something special to you. I mean, it doesn't necessarily matter who the person is. It's what they mean to you.
Yeah.
Didn't you just meet him as well, Alicia Shearer?
I was with Astra, and we met what's his name from New Kids on the Block? It
Joey.
was Joey.
Joey.
Yes.
Joey McIntyre.
Joey
Yeah.
McIntyre.
Apologies. I saw that on your
Yep.
Instagram.
And
I'm
it's
a
funny,
huge
too.
New Kids fan.
Yep. So yeah, we had Joey, and I did an interview with him as well. And I also
Wow.
interviewed Jonathan Knight. And when I had Jonathan, I even told him, I said, I was like, I love your brother so much. Like, it's so wild. Like, obviously they're so used to hearing all this, but like, it's crazy because, looking back, like from as a kid to now, it's like, who would have ever thought, aren't you supposed to be muting your phone?
Yes, and it is. Again, it's off. I just can't figure out why it still does it.
If you're a listener of The Rich Life Recipe and you know how to work an iPhone, please contact Alicia Shiro on Alicia Shiro at, I don't know how my phone works, I'm a boomer.com.
And it's literally off, and I don't get it. And I have notifications silenced, by the way.
That is funny. But no, I mean, looking back now to like when I was a kid to now, I would think to myself, like, who would have ever told the young me that I would have this opportunity to be able to like sit across from the people that I like loved and admired, like to actually have a one-on-one conversation. Like that's every person's dream, so many people. And that's actually another thing that I always do when I know I'm doing interviews with people. I like to open it up to their fans, because if there's anyone that has the best questions, it's always the fans of these people. Because when you're a diehard, you're going to come up with the questions that I might not even think of. And I'm pretty good when I do interviews, but there are times I get a lot of inspiration from the fandom, because they'll give me some ideas of things they want to know that I'm like, oh my God, that's a great question. Then plus they want to know it anyway. So let me ask, why not? Because these are the things that people want to know, not just the typical basic things you can Google. And that's always been like, that's my little secret recipe of interviews. I don't do interviews and get answers out that are Googleable. I want to be able to get something out of them that's newsworthy, or that's, that their fans are going to be like, wow, I never knew that about them.
I think that's super smart. I think what separates you from everyone, and probably what's helped with your success, is that you're willing to try new things, and you go out of your way to figure out, like you said earlier, how can I make this better? What can I do that someone else isn't doing? Or what can I do that they are doing, but make it my own and maybe do it in a little bit of a different way?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's huge, like getting input from the fans, because there's probably, those diehards, they always have something they want to know that maybe is not going to be out there in the
like
universe.
They'll be like, the third song on album, blah, blah, blah. You said this and this. What does it mean? And I'm like, that's a great question. Like, let me ask, like, who's going to think about something like that?
Yeah. I love that. We actually do that on the show. If you listen to season 1, it was a whole bunch of times we've gone, this comes from the fan, or I got this on a subreddit thread that I found. I saw this on Quora, because I do a bunch of, because again, I don't know who these people are. But I have to say, as someone who's done it on the show, I told a story that I've never told. There's something about your energy, weirdly enough, that says, it's okay. Come on, tell me something. Tell me something no one else has said. You can trust me. I got you. And I think that's very, very rare. Like,
that actually happened with Jess Glynn, the singer Jess Glynn. I was interviewing her, and I brought up something about love. And I said, I know you were in a relationship with a woman, but love is love. And she was just in shock. And I'm like, oh no, what happened? And my friend who's the record rep, he told me after the interview that she was like, how did she know that? And he goes, she does her research and she's really good. Do you want her to cut that out of the interview? And she was like, no, absolutely not. Like, that took me by surprise. I didn't even expect that.
Wow.
And
is there anyone that you would like? I'm obsessed with this kid, Sean Evans from Hot Ones. I'm like, great interviewer. He's got great energy, great whoever his research team is, they need to get a freaking award.
The premise of that, where it's like eating the hot wings and just get hotter and hotter. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Yeah, I love that.
And pain releases a certain truth serum that you can't help but tell stories that you don't want to be telling.
So does alcohol, and it's good if you can drink with someone. So like, I used to have a podcast, Tales Over Cocktails. So our whole premise was we would drink while talking. The more you're drinking, the more you open up. So we had people on, and that's how that would work. At Page 6, we do something called Show the Shot or Take the Shot. So basically what we do is we ask the celebrity to show us a juicy photo or video on their phone. And if they don't want to, they have to take a shot. So recently we had Ja Rule in, and Ja Rule came to promote his new whiskey, Amber and Opal, sorry. And I feel like I'm drunk right now.
Maybe we should have did
our
shots.
Energy. That's Alicia's energy right there. I'm Biden.
And honestly, this is a really good whiskey, and I don't even want to like sit and promote it, but I'm going to so promote it for him because I'm not a whiskey drinker, but it's like a honey whiskey, and it tastes
Wow.
even better than that Tennessee honey, like because it's actually agave sweetened, so it's natural. It's really
Oh my
good. So
gosh.
anyway, back
This
to him.
episode is sponsored by Ja Rule and his new
By Ja
whiskey.
Rule's Amber and Opal. Yes, make sure you
Yeah.
get your bottle. So, so we were asking him to show us, stuff on his phone, and he's a lot of fun. Like he was actually one of like the most fun interviews I've had recently. And I mean, I asked him one of the most easiest things. I said, "Show me a picture of you and Ashanti." Obviously they're best friends. He goes, "Oh, easy. I got so many pictures with her." He's going through his phone. He's like, "Why can't I find a picture with her?" He's like, F it, I'm gonna just take a shot. And like he kept taking shot after shot with like anything I would ask him. He showed us some things, but other things like he couldn't find. And I'm like, why don't you just Google it? Like, I'll make it easy for you. Just Google it. Like I was
Right.
like, asking, and he's like, to the point that I don't even think he was like even mentally there anymore. That because he's literally
Oh my
scrolling through his
God.
phone. And I'm like, just Google the picture. He's like,
Right.
what?
Right.
Like at the end of the at the end of the interview, he's like messing up, slurring. It was so funny. And then as he's walking out of page 6, he starts singing at the top of his lungs. I said, where else can you get a free Ja Rule concert? Like we got his ass drunk back there. Like this is great.
That's
damn smart.
awesome.
But yeah, that's always like another, that's the truth serum right there is the alcohol.
Alcohol.
That's
Wow.
amazing.
Yeah.
We should do this with edibles. Maybe we should just send everyone.
Yes.
Take the
Yeah.
mushroom.
They have to take it an
Science
hour
impression.
before they sign on with you,
Yeah.
and absolutely.
I'm
make
all about
sure
the
you get it all
mushrooms.
out.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
But
here's
is
Nyla.
there someone that you look at? You talk about, oh, that is a cute dog. That is, for those that are listening,
Nyla.
go
For
to
those who
YouTube
don't
right
know,
now. Yeah.
Nyla is her little Yorkie,
My little
super
Yorkie.
cute.
She's trying to get all up in the interview right now. She's like, it's my
Aw.
turn.
Yeah.
Do you give your dogs any supplements? We talked about health and benefits. Do you give any supplementation to your little baby there?
No, I
That's a
just make sure that
told
she
you.
just, well, first of all, she's the pickiest eater in the world. So she prefers human food over anything, which kind of stinks in a weird way. But when I do try to give her food, it's always like human grade, type of food. It's not like kibble or any of that nonsense because she just won't eat it anyway. But of course, she prefers the finer things in life, like filet mignon. She likes caviar. She likes
she does.
shrimp. She likes sushi as well, sashimi to be exact.
She's well-rounded.
Tuna,
Very much
salmon,
so.
eel. She eats it all. Like,
Wow.
yeah, lamb
Okay,
chops.
that's-
I can't. Like this dog is costing me a lot. I need a rich husband because I can't afford this dog anymore.
Well, we're
I'll
putting
send
that
you
out
something.
there. We're
Yeah, I'll
putting
send you
that
something
out there.
for free. It doesn't cost your dog
Perfect.
anything.
Perfect.
We'll do that after the show. I'll get your address from Alicia.
Amazing.
Listen, thank you so much. And we're wrapping up, and I can see Sophia's fingers being like, you guys always go over your marks, and we've gone over our mark, even without the edits, like your phone going off, and you're talking about your phone, and the email about your phone. At least brings us down. Thank you so much, Astra, for coming on. This has been a masterclass in how to make people feel safe and doing the work, showing up, making sure that you find ways to be more interesting and to be more interested by asking great questions, by looking to the fans, the geeks, the people that really, really care, and asking them what do they care about so you could feed it back to them. And I think that's what I took away from this. And of course, the authenticity that you put out so naturally, that if you are acting, if you are in fact the meanest, grumpiest, most terrible person in the world, you deserve an Oscar and George Clooney in your life. Sorry, Amal.
Wow, let's put that in the universe.
Yeah, we'll put it out there.
I
feel like there's someone better than George Clooney for you. But if you're out there, feel free to write in.
Or just find me on my Instagram at Astra on the Air.
Go direct. The DMs are open.
DMs are open for certain people.
Exactly. This is a queen, and not
Aw.
everyone can approach a queen.
You are the best. Oh my goodness.
Thank you so much for coming on today. We had a blast. I knew this was going to be a lot of fun, but my face actually hurts from laughing so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a blast. It's weird being on the other side of things, but you know what? It wasn't that bad.
Good. We're
Our
trying to
greatest
make you
compliment
feel
we've ever had on
comfortable.
this show.
I
Astra
will
says
say,
it wasn't that bad.
You guys are going places. You guys are very good at what you do. So don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
If you love this episode, make sure to subscribe so you never miss your weekly fix. New episodes are released every Wednesday. And if you think this podcast could help someone in your life build their own rich life recipe, please make sure to share this with them too.
Hey, you. Yes, you. I'd like to invite you to something brand new, something we're calling One Person Empires. Who am I? Jason Scott. You just saw me a couple of seconds ago in that podcast, where we were telling you about a rich life, where we bring you guests to explain how to have a rich life. It's in this idea that we decided to create a community to teach people just like you how to have your own rich life. What is a rich life? It's about doing what you want, with whom you want, when you want, wherever you want. Think of one-person empires like the Alcoholics Anonymous, a place to come to find community, to find people just like you who've done it, who've got through it, who can help you get through it. Because no one is coming to save you. That's what it says. Save yourself. Build an empire. That's what I want for you. That's what your family wants for you. That's what your community wants for you. AI, robotics, technology, tariffs, it's changing the world. But here's a chance to you to change your own world, to find sovereignty, to find independence. This is what we're offering. It's a set of principles and a set of challenges to turn you from entrepreneur to entrepreneur. It's a blueprint we can teach absolutely anyone. And that's what's inside One Person Empires. Other people just like you, learning the process, going through the challenges. In fact, I wanted to make it so bulletproof that in our very first challenge, I'm going to show you how to make all your money back for joining. And because you're a listener of the podcast, we've made you a special offer. Simply type in listener to get a discount in the community. Joining the community, have a chance to find out what it's like to live a rich life.